Hello viewers and potential subscribers, you're watching Unknown World, and a few people have been asking me how did you make the end mask from murder drones. So in this video I'm gonna go through it step by step on how exactly I made my end mask, so let's get to it. Some of the main ingredients you will need for making the end mask is some grey fur fabric, a mesh mask, a motorbike helmet visor, an LED screen, I'll have links for that in the description below, and a little bit of foam. The very first step I took when making my end mask was cutting away the bottom half of the mesh mask and then cutting away the bottom half of the visor. I did that using a Dremel tool and then combining the two elements. The reason I did that was to prevent fogging inside of my visor. Whenever you have a mask and you've got a visor or any kind of plastic screen in your eyes, it will fog up very quickly. So a step I took to prevent that was taking a mesh mask and then putting some breathable black fabric over it and then having that over my mouth. It basically just means I can breathe in and out without too much air going onto the visor, so that's a nice little trick that I did to prevent fogging up on the mask. I then made a quick foam cap for my head and combined all the elements together. There are tutorials on how to make those foam caps, so if you're not sure, go have a look. I also added a strip of ABS plastic over the top so I can keep the integrity of the foam cap together properly. I used a hot glue gun to keep everything together and then a heat gun to melt the piece of ABS plastic over the head cap. The next step of making this mask, and by far the most difficult part, was making the hair. At the beginning of the video you heard me mention Fox fur fabric, which is exactly what I used. I had to resort to cutting individual strips of hair around foam pieces and then gluing that onto the mask. I went ahead and took a few reference pictures of En's head from the show to get an idea of what his hair looks like. Every single hair strand looks more or less the same, so they're kind of like all curvy, and before I started cutting them out onto foam, I used a bit of paper to start off with so I don't waste any foam along the way. As you can see, I'm using a scalpel to cut the fur on the video. Make sure you only ever use a scalpel when cutting any kind of fur, because if you use scissors, you're gonna ruin the hair. Scissors essentially cut the ends of the hair strips, and you kind of need those in order to make the hair look like hair. If you cut the strips on the side off, then the edges of the hair are just not gonna look very nice when you're finished. Once I had enough hair pieces to work with, I took everything outside and I took a hairspray and a brush. I hairsprayed the entire bit of hair as a whole and then brushed it from base to bottom. I had to do this a couple of times in order to get the shape of the hair correctly, and then I used scissors to cut any of the excess hair that I was not happy with. Once I had enough hair strands, I set everything to the side and just let it to set. I also recommend you using as strong of a hairspray as you can, because if you use a weak hairspray, then obviously the hair is not going to stay in shape as well as it could have if you use a stronger one. In this video I used a number 4, but I think a number 5 is even better. Obviously the higher the number is, the better it becomes, so if you have access to it, use that instead. Once I had about 10 or so pieces of hair to work with, I went ahead and started tacking them onto the mask. I didn't hot glue gun anything into place straight away, because if I did that and made an error, it would be a very difficult error to take back. So what I did instead is use a little bit of tape, tacked it a little bit on the back, and then tacked it onto the mask. So I was able to manipulate the hair and kind of play around with it until I was happy with it, and then hot glued everything into place once everything was perfectly aligned. The rest of the details for the outside of the mask, for example the little teeth and the tongue, were made out of adhesive felt. The face guard for the mouth was made out of foam, as well as the little headband at the top of the hair. As for the visor on the inside of the mask, I just used tape to stick it on in case something went bad with it and I had to change it. If I used a hot glue gun, then it would have been very difficult to take it out, but just using a little bit of tape to keep it in place was more than good enough. Also, outside of the foam, I used a little bit of sponge just to make the inside of the mask a little bit more comfortable to wear. When putting the visor in, I used the same tape that you saw earlier and used the silver edges that you see on the side of this LED panel to stick it onto the inside of the visor. The LED panel that I purchased comes with an application that you download onto your phone, which allows you to DIY different faces onto the mask. You do have to do everything yourself, obviously, as DIY suggests. However, it is a lot of fun making all those faces. I only did a few different ones, but the choices are really limitless. The screen is a 16 by 32 LED panel, so there is quite a few different things you can do. And here is a bonus picture of me meeting Elsie Lovelock at London MCM last Sunday. She is the person who voices Uzi from Murder Drones. It was such a good time seeing her, and I also got a signed print from her as well. It was a great honor seeing her in person. Now I hope you guys enjoyed watching this video, and if it came in useful in any way, shape or form, please consider dropping a like and a follow to this channel. I'll appreciate it tremendously. And if you have any questions about any of the processes in this video, just let me know in the comment section below. I'll be happy to answer any of your questions that you have. Now I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Thank you once again for watching, and I'll see you guys next time, so see you.